the new feature is the creation of a so-called conditional column. A conditional column simply means that the values in a specific column, so row by row, depend on another column's values. What this means in our case is that I want to create a column now which holds text values, so age categories, where I say that, well, if the age max column here holds a value that is smaller than or equal to 4, this should be a baby, so the text baby should be the value of the conditional column. And to create such a column, we can go to the Add Column ribbon here. There we have different column options. We saw some of these already, for example, the duplicate column feature, and we'll dive into all of the other features throughout the course. But here I want to create a conditional column now. If we select this now, you see that we first have to define a column name. In our case, this will be the age category. And now we have to define the if clause. So if the value in a specific column, which we can define right here we would use the age max column, is equal in this case, or we also have many other options, but let's get started with equal maybe. So if the value in the age max column equals, in our case, 4, for example, then the output here should be baby, for example. So that would be the category baby. Now we could apply the conditional column like this would work, but it wouldn't make too much sense. Because actually in our age max column, we have numbers. And if we format numbers accordingly, so if we apply the data type whole number, for example, to the values in this column, then our operator would change. As you can see at the moment, we have text values in our age max column. Therefore, the operators, so the options we have right here, refer to text. So for example, it begins with, it does not begin with, it contains, anything like this. This is actually related to text. And if you're working with a column which actually contains numbers, then we should also make use of this. Meaning in our case, we should cancel the conditional column logic and change the data format from text to whole number first. Because now we can define ranges for different conditions. So if the value in the age max column is smaller than or equal to something, and for all the entries below that value then, a certain condition applies. Now this means if we go back to the conditional column option, again define the column name, which was age category in our case. And now we say that if the age max column has the operator not only equals, but now you see the different options. Now we have equals, does not equal, is greater than, and so on. Now we can say that if we have a value which is less than or equal to 4 again, then the output should be the baby. So that's the first condition. Now we also have to make sure that if our condition is not defined, that we also get results for these cases. This can be done in the so-called else clause. So for all cases where this condition is not true, we can say for the moment that this should be undefined. That's of course just a temporary solution. We'll add various clauses in the next minutes. So if we confirm this now, we see, after a few seconds, that indeed the first category worked fine. So we have this new column created with baby for the age max, which is equal to or smaller than 4. And for the other ones, we have undefined. As we can now set the conditional column based on numbers, we can now define ranges for our conditions. So we can say that for the age max, which is equal to or smaller than 14, for example, the age category should be child. This would then also include 9, because 9 here is smaller than or equal to 14. But as we previously defined the condition for the age max being equal to or smaller than 4, this would override, so to say, the next condition. So we would keep the baby definition, but then have child for the 9 and 14 case. Let's edit this quickly by clicking onto the gear wheel symbol next to the conditional column, and by adding the next clause, which would then be our age max column again with is less than or equal to, But now we use 14. Here the output should be child then. And as I just explained, as we first check for the primary if clause, so if this is true, then we set baby, and only if this is not the case, then the next if clause will apply. With this logic in place, if we confirm this once again, we have baby, child, and child. And now we can define other ranges. So for example, for the 24 category here or below, I explained the logic previously, this could be teenagers. For 34, we could be young adults. Up to 64, we are adults. And for all other cases, we are seniors then. Don't want to offend anyone here, but we just want to keep things as simple as possible. Therefore, we'll again add our conditional column logic with the gear wheel symbol. So for the next clause, we'll say that the age max should be less than or equal to maybe 24, and this should then be a teenager. Of course, we can discuss if this is correct, but it's just an assumption here. Then we add another clause where the age max again is less than or equal to 34. Here I'll say this will be the young adult category then. And our last if clause here will be the age max being less than or equal to 64, so that's a very big category in the end, and these should be the adults. That's it with our if clauses. Now we of course also have to change the else clause. This should not be undefined, but simply be equal to senior. As I said, don't want to offend anyone right here. We just keep things as simple as possible, just to make the conditional column logic clear. If we apply this now, we see that we now categorized all our data. One thing I'd like to add though now is I'd like to change the category from this any data type to text, because in the end we only have text in this column.